Okay, so good morning and welcome to Political Liaison of July 25th. I'm going to call the meeting to order. And first on our agenda is identifying any media on the line. Good morning, Bree from the Turtle Island News. Is there any further representatives from the Turtle Times? Okay, not seeing any reps from the Turtle Times. I'll move into any changes or additions or deletions to the agenda. Okay, seeing or hearing none, I'll look to a mover and seconder to adopt the political liaison agenda of July 25th.
I'll move. It's Melba.
I'll second.
Moved by Melba and seconded by Carrie. Are there any further questions or comments? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. We do have a short agenda today. So we'll declare any conflicts as we move through the agenda. We have no delegations or presentations. So we will look to the adoption of the political liaison minutes of June 27th.
I can move the minutes, Chief.
Okay, thanks, Nathan. It's moved by Nathan. Is there a seconder to the minutes?
I'll second. It's Hazel.
Seconded by Hazel. Are there any further questions or comments? Okay, seeing or hearing none, then all in favor?
Beaver.
Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Number 6 on our agenda is the Lifelong Learning Task Force update, which should be in your Dropbox. Sorry, I just want to confirm, Teresa, is the update in the Dropbox?
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So looking to any questions, comments on the update of lifelong learning, and if not, looking to mover and seconder to accept the update.
I'll move on that, Chief.
Okay, moved by Carrie. Is there a seconder?
I can.
Second, it's Melba.
Oh, second by Michelle. Thanks, Melba. Are there any further questions or comments? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. The next update we have is the CAT team activities for both June and July. So there's a long list of activities as well. I'll give you a minute or so to go through those. And if there's any questions or comments, the team is on the line.
I have a question, Mark.
Sure, go ahead, Melba.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm surprised that no data has been collected along the Grand with Oniganos on research on human and ecological connection and health of the water in the Grand River. So I'm glad STEAM is involved, I wanted to say. And on Metrolinx. I'm just wondering about monitors. When we talk of monitors, like field monitors, are we talking about our monitors, archaeological monitors, or are we talking other?
Okay,
Like on
thanks.
Metrolinx.
Thanks, Melba. I'll look to Robin to assist.
Actually, I'll defer this one to Tanya because it is our monitors, I believe, that we're talking about in that case. But Tanya does have some issues with Metrolinx as far as agreements with them. So it has been a little bit of a challenge. But yes, we do have fieldwork, archaeology, and environmental monitors there. Tanya is involved with that deployment of those monitors.
Yes, that is correct. Robin is correct. I don't know what more to add to what Robin mentioned. Yeah, we have Metrolinx works on a project-to-project basis with our monitoring program, and we're working on an agreement, an overarching agreement to accommodate all the projects, so it's less paperwork. And currently, we're going back and forth with negotiation. We have 2 sites that we are on site with Metrolinx with currently, but that is our outstanding status with Metrolinx.
Okay, I just wanted to say further that I was concerned for the current process. It says for every project, and now it changed. One agreement. So, is that what you're negotiating?
That is correct, Melba. So unless paperwork when we're working project to project, it takes a little bit longer with Metrolinx with their legal team to get things in place, and sometimes they're kind of lagging on when it gets us our field monitors out in the field. So we're trying to work on something overarching to accommodate all projects, so that way before the field work begins, we're not in negotiation with those a continuous negotiation with those agreements. I think today I'll receive that agreement and see what it looks like. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tanya, for your responses. I'll go next to Sherry Lynn and then over to Nathan. Sherry Lynn, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just have a question regarding, I see the city of Brantford on here. There's nothing for Brant County. We don't have anything in Brant County.
We have not met with Brant County recently. We do have an ongoing meeting schedule with the city of Brantford, but we have not at this point set that same system up with the county of Brant. We do actually, having said that though, we do go to their pre-consultation meetings. So we do have representation at their pre-consultation meetings so that when developers come with an idea, we then have an opportunity to share what concerns we may have, whether it's environmental, whatever it might be.
I just kind of concerned regarding all the buildup in Paris, especially around the Grand River and around the arena. There's all those new townhouses, duplexes, or whatever you want to call it. So I'm just surprised that they're not on an ongoing basis besides just at the meeting.
Right. Yeah, and that's something that I can certainly look into scheduling on an ongoing basis. There is a bit of a challenge in that we don't have like there's no mechanism in place for us to be able to stop any developments at this point, because that's all privately held lands. So it becomes then a challenge. You know, we are meeting with various developers within the county of Brant, but we keep getting the same response in that is the county's, that's the province's responsibility to ensure that our needs our rights are being upheld. So when we don't have the opportunity to meet with the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. We don't have the opportunity to meet with the Minister of the Environment. So it becomes a challenge for us because it's a game of pass the buck.
Well, I guess this is the whole part about why you're here and why you report is for political reasons. And the political part that you do need for us to be able to advocate on your behalf and what you need. Mm-hmm. And I guess the problem that I have with the Brant County or where Paris is, because someone has to sign off on it. And I know it's the province, but it's still their municipality or whatever you want to call it. They must have to sign off or know that the builds are coming. So I'm not sure how the other councillors feel, but I think with especially Brantford, City of Brantford and Brant County, it seems like they're building nonstop, and I think there needs to be a more wholesome and secure relationship where we stand as Six Nations with them. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just further to add, obviously, you know, our office has written letters to the different ministries, just to what Robin has highlighted. But Sherilyn is correct. You know, this is the activity report. So obviously, you know, giving us that, you know, I guess that glimpse in terms of what activities have occurring in June and July. But to take it a step further, that's exactly, you know, what we're looking for in terms of highlighting those political advocacy pieces in terms of the assistance, you know, needed from council to further along the discussions, you know, at that level with the province and so forth. So, I mean, I think maybe we can even take it a step further, in a sense, in looking to, you know, highlighting a political piece. I mean, this is obviously a good report, and I think we've been getting further details as this report, you know, has been coming to council. But maybe we're looking also to a separate piece or an attachment to really look at highlighting the political. I'm going to go over to Nathan at this point.
Chief, and I think that's a good idea to start highlighting those political needs going forward. One question I had was under the City of Toronto, and I see there's a Indigenous data governance framework as a goal that's being established. A couple of questions. One, I've never heard of the establishment, nor do I think Six Nations has approved the establishment of a First Nations, Inuit, and Métis data and research circle in Toronto to collect data. That's kind of one question. And the second question is there a data agreement already in place for this particular work? That's something else I'd like to see. I just don't want the City of Toronto thinking they can run roughshod with Indigenous data without following, you know, the proper principles that have already been established under OCAP and whatnot.
Right. I'm actually going to let Taylor speak to this particular item because I was unable to attend this meeting. So I'm going to let her talk to that one.
So yeah, the City of Toronto, this is one of their new projects, and the goal is to collect data to better their services in Toronto with marginalized communities. So it's Indigenous, but it's also like Black and other marginalized communities. They haven't actually done any data collection yet. They're reaching out, and they want I want to say partners, but I don't know if that's quite the right word, to see if any other nations want to like work with them on this. But the main goal is like that the data is only for they only want it for, so say like their housing like in Toronto, like they don't want anything outside of Toronto. And so they formed, I guess, a working group to do the consultation phase with different Indigenous communities in Toronto, and then they're also reaching out to nations, but they actually haven't, as far as I understood, they don't actually have like a terms of reference, or they haven't really narrowed down what exactly the project's going to do. They're still working on that, and so yeah, there's no agreement in place, and they're also they weren't very clear on much, as they just started, and basically the only thing they were really clear on is that the data was going to be used to better the services in Toronto.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that response, Taylor. And as well, do agree with Nathan's concern as well in terms of anytime it seems, our data is collected, it's used. I wouldn't say, not always to the benefit to our people. And so maybe if we could highlight those concerns as well, just moving forward. I see Darren also has his hand raised. Darren?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Nathan, and good discussion around this. We've got our Zach Miller as our Director of Planning, Performance, and Evaluation, and part of his mandate will be to look at these data governance agreements and also other research either that has been done or is being requested through ethics, etc. So, this is another area where we have some additional capacity to work with the CAP team and others to make sure that the proper processes are followed and the OCAP principles are followed. So Zach does not normally attend political liaison, but Trevor's on here with us as well. So we will follow up with him on that particular item and others.
Okay, that's great. Thanks. Thanks for that, Darren. Looking to any further questions or comments in relation to the CAP activities report of June and July. So just a note as well, Robin, wondering also too if we can look to the additional, I guess, political document in a sense. So this activity report is really good in terms of the detail that it's sharing. But if we can maybe add even a further piece of political advocacy and that connection with the chief's office and council and so forth, where there's extra assistance needed to get in and have these conversations with different ministries and so forth, I think that would be helpful.
Okay, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for that, Robin. Is there any further questions or comments? Okay, seeing or hearing none, then I will look to the recommendation, which is to accept the report from the CAP team as information for the activities of June and July.
Can I ask one more question, Mark?
Sure, go ahead, Melba.
The Conestoga project, I believe I'm reading the right one. Is Guyana involved with this 180 acres of land?
I believe we made the recommendation. Yeah, I believe we made the recommendation.
Sorry, go ahead.
I believe we made the recommendation that Guyana also be involved with that project. And we also suggested that perhaps they could include some of the students through STEAM Academy or through, some of our high schools, because they are actually looking at some traditional agricultural practices and, just that whole concept of reconnecting with the land. So yes, we did make that recommendation.
And the other one, Mark, Enbridge. Is there a date for Enbridge to be consulting with Six Nations for the possibility of lowering the rates of gas company customers?
We have not at this point set up a follow-up meeting. I don't believe, did we, Taylor?
Oh, I think Kevin was going to get back to us once he talked to the higher ups, and then once he had an idea of what they were thinking, he was going to contact Dawn to schedule a follow-up meeting. Mm-hmm. But he has not gotten back to us, as far as I know, as of yet.
One last question. When you meet with all these projects, is there any discussion concerning training and education? You just mentioned education a few minutes ago for our younger people, our students, people who are wishing employment.
Yes, whenever we meet with proponents, that is something. Places like, Metrolinx and basically any projects that we talk about, we do ask of employment and training for our community members. That's part of the ongoing discussions that we have.
Enbridge was specifically, sorry, Marla, I was going to say Enbridge was specifically asked to continue the training that they have provided in the past for us, the Six Nations gas employees.
Mark, it's Hazel. I have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Hazel.
Okay, sorry, my apologies. I'll let Melba have her last comment, and I'll shift over to Hazel, then Sherry Lynn. Melba, you have the floor.
Okay, I'm always interested in the archaeology monitors, where they're working. I understand sometimes they're far away, other times they're close. I wonder if that can be in the report. Specifically, they are in Guelph doing such and such. They are in Dundalk or wherever. Yeah, I wonder if that's possible that we would know. I think the community would be interested in are they still training monitors? Are they adding monitors to their roster concerning the digs that they do?
I can speak to that. So I never really been invited into this portion of the consultation part, but next month I do plan on accommodating an archaeological update, because there's a lot of things that the community needs to be involved with, and one of them I really do feel is important is letting the community know, where are our monitors, what are they doing. So thanks for that, Melba. I'll be definitely you'll see that next month. I'll put in for my own archaeological updates.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for that, Tanya. Over to you, Hazel.
Yes, I would just like to talk about the Enbridge and the cost of our I don't even know what you call it. It seemed like on a gas bill, there's so many delivery costs sit in 4 different ways, actually. You got the transportation to Six Nations cost, the delivery cost, the federal carbon cost, and then your actual usage for the gas, and then your prices for all of those transportation costs in some fashion add up to almost triple of the gas that you've actually used. I'm wondering if, in order to get a real good meeting with the delivery discussions with Enbridge or whomever, that shouldn't council on a political level meet with those people in higher positions to discuss that transportation, because it's almost ridiculous. It's almost similar to when we had to pay like, I can only speak for myself. I don't know what anybody else's bill was. Like, I was paying over $500 a month for hydro. And then when Chief Ava had spoke to all of the people that she needed to and knew, and they reduced our costs, now it's down to a reasonable level of just, you know, 100 and over. Like $500 plus is a ridiculous amount. And now I see that these transportation costs on my bill just for the last month, like you got your service. I understand that. Like Six Nations does have to provide, you know, the service to us. But then you got that federal carbon tax, which was $60. Delivery cost was $82.85, and transportation was $51.46. So if you add those 3 or 4 together, it's way, way more than what you'll ever use in consumption of the actual fuel itself. So I'm wishing and hoping that on a political level, we could meet with those people that are sitting in those higher positions where they can have some discussion on, you know, fixing those rates, because it's like we're buying a company, but we'll never own it. So that's just my interpretation. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Hazel. And as you know and are aware, you know, we have been looking into this matter for some time now in developing that political plan to obviously see, you know, our gas, you know, assistance and members of gas bills go down. And again, I think it's got to be, there's a few things that we have to do even further. One, to further educate, I think, you know, our community on just exactly what you're talking about, Hazel, in terms of the delivery and so forth, and what that actually means. And then further break that down to, you know, who we have to talk to in order to see, you know, these rates go down and so forth. And so I think there's a few things that need to still occur, and that's something that we'll continue to build that plan out to obviously, hopefully, obviously the outcome be reduced bills per community member and so forth. So we'll continue to do that work and provide updates as we move along.
I would just like to also share that Trevor was actually at the Enbridge gas meeting with us. So, you know, he is aware of the discussions that we have been having with Enbridge. And there seems to be a company will to work with us to get some of those costs either eliminated or reduced. He did seem to indicate that, you know, the will was there. They just had to figure out how to do it.
That sounds good.
That's great. Thanks. Thanks for that update, Robin, and Trevor as well. Sherilyn.
I guess just one last for me is regarding the region of Waterloo, and I think there's probably more regarding the village site. I guess my question is, I understand right now what the chief said, that the government adequacy, but I guess my part is what's the plan? What's the short term and long term for this department if we get artifacts back? So if they say, oh, Six Nations, we're going to give you 1,000 artifacts tomorrow, what's the plan? What do we need to start working on, or to look at? Because you have over 81,000 artifacts there, and there's probably different nations. But the part of, for me, that's concerning is I want to know the plan, because at some point I would like them back tomorrow because they need to come home. But what is our plan for them to come home? And that's the advocacy that we need as the governing body to advocate what your plan is. What does it look like? Short term, long term. Those are the things I want to look at also. Thank you.
I guess I can speak to that. So short term, box on a shelf in office. Long term is a political advocacy to build a building. We know we generate a pretty you know, wholesome amount of dollars to try to, you know, accommodate that and educate our community. So obviously we're going to need a building. If archaeology companies can keep our artifacts in the basement, then obviously we are the only ones that have to have a set of rules to actually accommodate having those artifacts in our community, because that's a problem. That's a real problem for me. If there's all of a sudden a set of rules that we have to have a building that meets expectations from the ministry before they give them back to us. So that's something I'm working on. And in regards to when those artifacts come back, I'll tell you, I ran into an experience where we could have repatriated back to Curve Lake. So what happens is they reach out the ministry to every community that could possibly have interest and involvement within this territory. And they say, do you give permission to Curve Lake to take these artifacts? And I did. There was one out of the 11 people that were contacted, because I feel like our brothers and sisters in Curve Lake need to benefit as well off of education and having them in the community. So one community said, no, I don't want to see them going to Curve Lake. So they ended up at Sustainable Archaeology in Helmington, and nobody got them. So there is a lot of gray area and a lot of situations that there's a lot of steps to move forward. In the day we do get to, we have to make sure that all other nations actually agree that 6 nations can have them. I believe it was the Haudenosaunee Development Institute who said no, that Curve Lake couldn't have them. So I hope that's helpful.
Okay, thanks. Thanks. That's definitely helpful for sure, Tanya, on this piece. Follow-up question, Sherry Lynn, or comment?
Just a follow-up, and thank you for sharing that. And I guess for Chief, I think this is getting bigger than ever before, and I think it needs the more attention to it. And we really need to figure out a plan, but also to support and advocate with these gray areas that shouldn't be gray. Thanks.
Yeah, and I think even further, I mean, there's a number of, I think, opportunities even forthcoming. I know, obviously, want to try to do things in a wholesome manner. I know, obviously, with, even say, for example, records, anything coming from residential schools. I know there's, legacy projects up and coming and so forth in terms of what community would like to see. I mean, we've talked about, further housing, or rather even showcasing and further educating all of our history in museum style. And so what that looks like, I think, is what Sherry Lynn's referring to in terms of, that attention of, building that building of the long term, to Tanya's point, and looking to see how we could further educate and really showcase and house, our artifacts in history and records and so forth. That's the ultimate goal in a matter of planning to. I think is more of what we need to have that conversation in order to get to that end goal. So that I do appreciate your comments, Sherry Lynn, and do agree that the attention has to be more on the planning of this, so that we could see this through in a timely manner.
And I totally agree, because we need to get back to our we need to benefit, because all these other archaeology companies are benefiting. And we need to go back and understand our identity. And through all of the artifacts, that's where our identity lies. So I'm looking forward to the long-term goal and short-term. So thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thanks, and do agree as well, Tanya. Helen, and then over to Hazel.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, but the library was planning to build a new building. And it was to include lands and resources, and it was to include an archival center. And if it ever happens, it could include a museum type situation for all our artifacts as well. It was supposed they were planning to build it back on Harold behind it. Back in the back there where Harold Road is. That was the plan. But they can't find money for the building, but it did include all that stuff, and it could include a museum sector for all our artifacts, especially if the archival center was supposed to be highly technical with controlled heat and all that kinds of stuff to preserve the whatever goes in there. So, but again, they ran into the same problem as Guy O'Neill. The money all got cut for libraries and they can't find money to build it, but it would have been an excellent building if we could find money to do that. We could house all our own artifacts and have our own museum. So something to think about if we ever come across a lot of money one of these days.
I do agree, Helen. I think into that building, and I'm sure Darren obviously has his pulse in terms of the infrastructure piece of things. But I think that's a good key word, obviously, and I know we're always saying this and trying to further it is collaboration. So anywhere we can look to collaborate in these initiatives and projects, I think, is always to the overall benefit of community and a more wholesome approach. So I do agree to that piece. I'll just look to, just before I go to Hazel, I just want to check in. I see Darren raise his hand. Perhaps it's in relation to this particular comment. Darren?
Yeah, and Chief, I know you and I have spoken about it as well in our check-in meetings. It's definitely, we would look to incorporate all those elements into one facility. And I think it would be a showcase facility as well, right? Obviously. So as part of our infrastructure planning task force, we have identified all of the ban-held property within the territory and, where does it make the most sense? And I think the other piece that would be added to would probably be our records department in like a separate section. So all of those elements, they're in bad need of a facility as well. So it's all part of we have an infrastructure planning group that has identified all the projects for the next 5 to 10 years. So again, it's a function of how do we get to them and how do we finance them. Obviously, funding is one thing, but if we're able to have a promise of a regular revenue stream, such as some projects that go on outside the territory through DevCorp, if we can get some of those funds, as we've already done through the Lake Erie Connector as an example, that can be used to finance the project or other projects. So that's what we're looking at through that team. So I just wanted to give that general update for today. Thanks.
Okay, appreciate that. Thanks for that, Darren. Over to you, Hazel.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of ways how we could progress a little bit rather than be at a standstill, because we keep talking about the same thing. And it always comes back to the fact that you don't have money to build a building to house the stuff that we need to put in there. So I guess I'm thinking about these huge buildings that the tobacco people put up. Couldn't one of those be put up? I'm not sure how much they cost, but if it started out as a stage one where you could house all of those archaeological products, and then not only that, in terms of helping out the records management staff, like there's two, and like we've already discussed prior, that two girls working in that area, and the weight of those boxes, and they have to put them up high, they have to get on a high ladder. Like, why couldn't there be some type of construction started where it would go in stages? At least you got a place to store your stuff. And as far as temperatures go, that has to be accommodating for the products that you're storing. I'm sure there's ventilations and or whatever atmospheric temperature controls that's going to help with all of that. But I don't know, sometimes I just wonder if we just start it with a building such as that and then built on to create the offices. It would be the similar as Ogwenidao. Like, that was just a great big building, and now it's all offices, and like you can accommodate and build and have a lot of room at the same time. So just a suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Hazel, for your suggestions. And again, I think, looking at, and do agree with you, maybe there's some things that we could be potentially phasing out in terms of getting to the bigger picture or end goal. But I think as well as, obviously want to have the necessary people. And so maybe perhaps Darren can even further take us back, or if they've not even perhaps maybe even had the same type of conversation at that table in terms of the infrastructure planning. So I think it's more along the lines to see things happen quicker, as opposed to looking to the end goal right right away. So I do appreciate your suggestion, and we'll look even further to it. Is there any other further questions or comments in relation to the activities report?
I'll move, Mark, on activities for June and July to accept the report from the consultation and accommodation process team as information.
Okay,
Melba.
thank you for that, Melba. Is there a seconder? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. The next item on our list is further support for the commemoration and reparation, the archaeological department. So I believe I'll pass this one over to Tanya to further speak to the background, if I'm not mistaken, and then look to further recommendation and discussion.
In 2020, we're working on an archaeological site in Brantford. Well, actually, I guess I better rewind a bit further to provide everybody with clarity. So in 2020, August, A6N reached out to myself and stated that there was human remains that were recovered through their HVAC in a 1-by-1 unit. Cops, the police, the coroner's office was called at the time. Upon further investigation, we had a recovery of a little 12 to a 14-year-old boy. So in regards to the little boy, we did a full archaeological investigation. Survivor Secretariat was called immediately. We've been in meetings and conversations ever since. I'm now seeking to look for repatriation. He was exhumed at the time, which is not a normal archaeological practice, but at the time we didn't have enough data to provide that he wasn't correlated or was correlated with the Mohawk Residential School. All of that data has been collected. He's now sitting in coroner's office, and I was looking for repatriation at the Painter Road ancestral burial site that was started by Joanne Thomas. And we had I guess it was in March, Janice Burning finally gave me the paperwork stating that we do have full access to the property now. So that was one of my recommendations and asks today, was for the repatriation inside the ancestral grounds. And secondly is what it's going to look like further the ancestral burial grounds, landscaping wise, and a commemoration rock for Joanne and Barb Harris, who were the next of kin to our ancestors for many years.
Okay, do appreciate that background, Tanya, to this recommendation. I'll look to see any further questions or comments. You see the recommendation on the agenda. Looking to any further questions or comments.
It's Melba. I think we do have to move forward out of respect for young boy, that he needs a final place to rest. and I think we should move forward on utilizing the land on Painter Road. So I will move on the recommendation, action, and time frame.
Okay, thank you, Melba. It's been moved. Seconder?
I'll second Hazel.
Second by Hazel. If just looking to any further questions or comments.
Could I just read that so the community will know
Sure.
what we're moving on? That the Six Nations, the Grand River Elected Council supports the Archaeological Department to move forward with the utilization and to commemoration the Painter Road Ancestral Grounds, that the Six Nations, the Grand River Council waive second reading.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for that, Melba. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Favor.
Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. A motion to waive second reading.
I'll move, Melba.
I'll second Hazel.
Okay, it's been moved by Melba, seconded by Hazel to waive second reading. All in favor?
Favor.
Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Okay, thank you, Nyao and Tanya, for your work on this file. And again, look forward to further next steps.
Thank you kindly.
Okay, Council, the next piece on our agenda is just is the political update. So if I can, we had a really busy week last week. So I'm going to call upon Christopher just to do a quick walkthrough. We had multiple minister visits, as well as Ann Scott in the RDG went down. So if I can, I'll look to Christopher just to highlight some of the political pieces for those.
Thanks, Chief. Yeah, we had a very busy week, a very good week, beginning with, as the Chief said, a visit by the Minister of Veterans Affairs, who visited the Veterans Hall in Ohsweken. It was a very good meeting, and the Chief had a chance to interact with him and with his staff, and he interacted with veterans as well. And so that was quite good. And there were a number of issues raised by the community that we are going to be following up on with the Veterans Affairs Ministry to see action on. And they've already gotten back to us on some of that as well, such as providing adequate information to Six Nations veterans. So that's something we're following up on. And that was just the first visit. There were others as well, and other meetings. We had a call midweek with the Minister of Indigenous Affairs, Greg Rickford. That was a very important call about consultation requirements that the Government of Ontario advises on to municipalities in relation to the letter that the Chief put out to the 38 municipalities on the Haldeman Tract. And that is an ongoing conversation that we're going to have to be following up on with some other meetings in the very near future with Minister Rickford and with other ministers in the Ontario government and on a staff level as well. And then we had a meeting with a visit by Minister Mendicino on Friday, the Minister for Public Safety, who also was accompanied by Minister Tassi, the Receiver General of Canada, and some other local members of Parliament as well. We had a meeting with Minister Mendicino at the police station in Ohsweken to discuss renewing the Tripartite Police Services Agreement. Minister Mendicino made an announcement of an additional $1.9 million of funding in youth diversion programming to help undermine the activities of gangs on Six Nations territory. And that is something that Council will be doing further work on to figure out the best uses for that funding. But that funding will be going to youth at Six Nations. And we also had conversations, of course, about broader issues with regards to the Tripartite Police Services Agreement, the enforcement of Six Nations laws. There was also some discussion of the disproportionate impact of the ArriveCan app on Indigenous people, and in particular on Six Nations members. And then, of course, we are also looking forward to the AMO conference which happens in a few weeks in Ottawa, and we have a number of meetings lined up there, both on the ministerial side and on the staff side. So, more to come on that.
Okay, thank you, Christopher, for that verbal update. And just to also further add, we also had the RDG and Scott in territory as well for school inspections, in addition to other conversations happening. And so you'll see the agreement come forward in relation to additional funding to our current agreement in relation to federal schools. To do some of the initiatives. I know I had reported last week in terms of, say, for example, one of the initiatives of school cameras at, throughout all of our federal schools. And so that's the type of initiative that this funding would come from. And so we just were looking for further clarification on that piece. So you'll see that agreement come to full council for discussion and approval. And then as well, further, we looked for this week, rather looking at how we move, we'll be traveling to Akwesasne for the Iroquois Caucus, as well as Ganawagi for the follow-up with the Gaming Commission on their tour site of Mohawk Online. So there's a number of things other coming up as well. But again, do appreciate Christopher and as well in terms of providing that verbal update of political updates. Not sure if there's any further questions or comments in relation to that verbal update.
Mark, it's Hazel.
Sure, go ahead, Hazel.
Yeah, in reference to the Arrive can, is that still a process that you have to deal with if you're going to go across the border? Say we're going to Akwesasne on the American side. So therefore, do we have to fill out all of the Arrive can prior to coming back?
So that's what's currently still in place. I know there's been obviously discussion, I think, at the date of September to hopefully see that no longer. Minister Mendocino didn't really, he's obviously had a number of concerns and complaints come forward, especially from Indigenous communities. I know Akwesasne has their own, given the status of their territory and the three borders that they have. But nonetheless, I think that's where we're further, I guess, adding pressure to the government on that Arrive Can app and so forth. But as it currently stands, yes, it's still in place.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Helen?
Yeah, in terms of, I guess, your visit to Ganawagi regarding the Mohawk gaming issue, did we ever get a legal opinion as to whether this was a good impact or OFNLP? Because I seem to recall council wanting a legal opinion if it was going to impact.
Yes, we did. So this is actually part of, this is the last step that we're taking. If you recall, this meeting was rescheduled. So this is the rescheduled follow-up piece. And there's actually been more information since, as well as the OFNLP AGM meeting, which I'll have a full report on. So basically, this is the last step to the package that we're adding to bring forward to council to make further decision. So you'll see that come forward after this visit, and that will be on the whole picture here.
All right.
Okay, is there any further questions or comments? Okay, see or hearing none, I'll look to move to accept the political verbal update as information.
I'll move, Mark.
Moved by Hazel, second by Helen. All in favor?
Favor.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion is carried. That does complete our agenda. We had no new business for the open session, so I will look to our last item, which is the adjournment of political liaison. Is there a mover and seconder?
I'll move, Hazel.
Moved by second by Helen to adjourn. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Well, thank you to everybody for joining us this morning. Political liaison. I believe we have general council tomorrow, so we'll look to see you then. Yeah, and have a good day.